All met. This is Layman with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the new 2024 5e rule set. This is the Fantasy Grounds edition. This just released today, so if you are experiencing any sort of bugs or errors, please make sure you report those to the Fantasy Grounds forums online. That way they can work on them, they can take a look at them. I found a couple earlier that they weren't that big of a deal, but I think with certain combinations of characters and options that you might run into a few. So make sure you report those, but if you're not familiar, if you are in the middle of a session and you're building a character and you notice that something isn't right or you're getting console errors, what you want to do is in the chat log, if the console was already dismissed, you can do a / type console and then hit enter, and it will bring up this console window, and then you can compile your logs from here, which will say that it will give you errors, or it will tell you what the errors were, and then you would compile it and it will save it as a zip file. And if you can make a screenshot, that'd be helpful too, and then you would post that up on the Fantasy Grounds forums on the official thread here, which will be helpful to them. So this is the House of Healing, so make sure that you report it there. We're already starting to get a couple reports here and there. I don't think they're anything dire. They might just be little mistypes or something, but anyhow, that's important for those who are going to be using the rule set, that you report those and you kind of work through those. And I'm sure by the end of the week they'll have most of that stuff worked out if there's any more. So let's get to the actual program. So new theme. Yep, new theme. And if you want to watch this with a different type of commentary, kind of more straight to the point, Zacchaeus has done several videos that kind of go over the changes. So if you don't like my commentary or my style of presentation, you can watch Zacchaeus's. There's a brand new playlist that he just dropped today, which has his take on it. And so I'm just going to kind of go through this. This is my first time. I didn't have much preview. I did look at it a little bit in the test, but I didn't have any content, so it was hard for me to really test anything. I really thought that was more for like developers and people who are doing extensions. At any rate, so this background decal, I sourced this myself. This doesn't come with the rule set. I actually imported this, so if you're wondering where this is at, I actually went online and found this. So, I like the theme. It's pretty nice. Doug showcased this last Friday, so it was already kind of out of the bag since then. And today I'm going to build a fighter character, which really is kind of a basic thing. They've added a couple more things, and I've noticed some changes, but I wanted to show you the book really quick. I don't want to go through it all and spoil it for you and take away your fun, but I am going to bring that up. So the player's handbook is really nicely done. You got your introduction, and then if you want to use the navigation arrows on the bottom to kind of turn through the pages, that's the way you can do it. Or you can collapse the menu on here on the left and just kind of look at it like you're actually flipping through a book, which is really nice. That's not a new feature, but that is something that they built into the latest and greatest version of Fantasy Grounds, so it's pretty nice. But they have all kinds of explanations on how the game is supposed to work, so I think a good number of us kind of already know a lot of these things, but some of these might be a little different because of the changes and the updates in the rules, so you might want to go through those and review them. They do kind of go through the different pillars of play for exploration, combat, and social interactions or role play. And then here we're going to focus more on character creation. And by the way, this has a lot of art in it. So if you've been under a rock for a while, there's a ton of art that comes with the book, so it's pretty nice. But we're going to go to character creation. Some of the things that changed a little bit that I noticed right off the bat is that they changed the order of character creation. So they kind of made it to where you start with your class, then you will determine your origin, which is kind of like your background, and then you get ability scores based off of your origin. So I think they looked at it more like what you were doing, where you grew up, those sort of things had more influence on shaping your characteristics as opposed to just race. And then well, they call it species now, I guess. So that's part of your origins and your background too. So then you determine your ability scores, choose your alignment, and then you fill in the details. And then if you wanted to get some trinkets, you can. So this is kind of a little different order than what they had before, which I don't mind. It's kind of the same issue, but I still believe in Fantasy Grounds. You'll want to do some sort of methodology that's similar to the classic way of doing it. I don't know if it will impact anything, but play around with it. But we used to say ability scores, background, race, and class, which is completely backwards from this. But if you're going to do drag and drop, you might still have to do it that way. I haven't done it yet, so we'll find out in the future. But I'm going to use the character wizard. And the main reason I'm using it is because, one, I want to learn to rely on it and trust it. And if I don't use it, then I'm not going to ever know if it's going to work or if it's broken or if it sucks or what. I got to kind of use it for a while to get a feel for it. I want to see all the hard work that was put into it. And of course, I want to help them find out if there's any bugs or any things that need to be fixed. So that's my purpose here. And also kind of just showcase some of the changes. All right, so that's the new player's handbook, which is really nicely well done. I'm not going to build a spellcaster yet. If this show goes well, I get enough watches, and maybe if I get over 100 views, I'll make another video, and we'll go over a spellcaster and a rogue and maybe a wizard of some sort. But anyhow, this is the book, and if you want to access that, you can either go to books here, which will have the new player's handbook loaded here, which is kind of like your bookshelf, or you can go through the traditional method and go to modules and then load it from here. There's an important little caveat I wanted you to know about is in the options menu, or when you start a new 5e campaign, you'll get a pop-up that'll ask you if you want to switch or go to one or the other. So there is a variation that you can choose if you want to include or exclude your base version. So there's Legacy and there's 2024. When you first start a campaign, it's going to say that. And if you want Legacy, then I think you're going to have both. But if you have just 2024, I don't know if it locks the records out or it pre-selects everything for you. But that is basically kind of like a clean sheet, and you're not mixing and matching both rules. I would recommend just playing with the 2024 for a while and just seeing how that goes, and then go back and start thinking about incorporating some of the older content, because you're going to have to know kind of how the new stuff works to enable yourself to adapt to the newer standards, or if you're going to have to do some work, some manual work. But I imagine if you're going to try to play something from like a third party character facing content, like a character build, you're going to have to do some manual manipulation after the character's built. So there is that technical thing, and I think they didn't want, or they suggested that you didn't, this is from Wizards of the Coast, that you didn't mix and match the backgrounds and such. So hey, no problem, Sundance. So if you have third-party content that's like from Kobold Press, some older stuff, you might have some issues there. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet, but you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt there and decide what's worth it and what's not. For myself personally, I'm going to try doing this with a clean slate. So I'm not going to mix my mashed potatoes with my corn. I want to make sure that they're separate for right now, and you have that toggle. If you want to stay with both, or you want to have access to older stuff and the new content, or if you just want the new stuff. So that'll pop up in the beginning, but if you decide later you want to change it, you can come to the options and change that. So let's go to the character creation. So when you click on characters on the right hand side under player, this window for some reason is always going to be in the center. I think that was by design in case it gets covered up or something, so it's always going to be in the middle. Even if I move it and I close it and I try to relocate it, it's always going to be. So that's the only exception I can think of in Fantasy Grounds that will do this. And I think that's to ensure that it always comes up, and you don't lose that. So I'm going to click on the character wizard, but you can do the older drag and drop method. And as I said earlier, I'm not certain if it's the same order or not as they describe in the new player's handbook. So you'll have to play with that. But I'm going to use the character wizard to get used to it, see what changes are there, and help out with any bugs. So clicking on character creation, I'm going to start with a class, and they kind of have this in the order that they described in the player's handbook, which I appreciate because the previous one was kind of whatever, but this was actually in the order stated. Now you don't have to build it necessarily in this order because you don't commit until the end. So that's kind of up to you if you want to do that. But basically, if you go into the book, the actual Dungeons and Dragons 2024 Player's Handbook, they have it set up to where they suggest that you do class, origin, ability scores, and alignment. So this is class, background, and species are kind of your origin. That's what that is. And then your ability scores and such. So that's how they kind of broke this down. It's a little different than before. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a fighter. That was what I was committed to build today. And as you can see, it comes up and you get to pick your features, and I'm at first level. So let's take a look at proficiencies. So I'm going to drop this down. Now, this is where things are going to get different. You're kind of used to getting certain things at certain times in certain ways. So now you're going to have to get used to which skills you're going to choose, that sort of thing. But make sure you read this stuff up here. So you get to choose two. It gives you a list of choices up here. And then there's some armor that you would start with and some other weapons. So this is just a kind of an overview up here. So for this being a fighter, your saving throws are based on strength and con. You don't necessarily have to pick skills that are based on those. As a matter of fact, you may pick other skills to offset the weak parts of your ability scores. But I'm going to go ahead and pick something here. So I kind of, I always pick athletics for a fighter, but then the second skill kind of depends on the build. So I'm thinking maybe a dwarven kind of battle, kind of, like a tank basically. So maybe intimidation. So that way I don't always have to swing my weapon. I can, yell at someone and scare them out of the way or something like that. So that gives me some role play opportunity. And if I have a horrible charisma, at least I have a half a chance to pull it off. Fighting style. So I would think that this guy, being how he is, I don't think he's as aggressive as he could be. I think he's more defensive. So he probably fights to defend him, using his shield and kind of blocking more than, going on the attack. But he's also like a protector. So I don't know exactly which one I want to choose. But I don't really like the mechanics of a protector, so I think I'm going to go with defense because at least I benefit in that, and I'll get a bonus. And it says you honed your prowess, gained fighting feat of your choice. Defense is recommended. Whenever you gain a fighter level, you can replace the feat you choose with a different fighting style feat. So that's kind of cool. So when you go up in levels, you can swap out these feats as you go, which I think is kind of cool and flexible. And it kind of points out the fact that your character is evolving. You're not stuck with the same feat over and over and over, unless you want to keep it, of course. And then in this case, you get second wind and weapon mastery at first level. So you get this sort of like a 3 kinds of different simple or martial weapons. You get 3 a mastery of, possibly. When you finish a long rest, you can practice your weapon drills and change one of these weapon choices. So that's pretty cool. So you have an evolving weapon mastery that can evolve over time. So I don't know how many times I've picked up a really cool magic item, but because I wasn't proficient with it, it kind of sucked. I didn't really want to use it. Now, in this case, when you do a long rest, you can practice with the weapon, and then you can change one of those weapon choices. So let's say you were initially skilled with a long sword, and then you pick up a warhammer. That may give you that option to switch between which weapons that you are trained with. So that's really cool. So when you reach certain fighter levels, you gain the ability to use the mastery properties of more kinds of weapons. So you get more and more proficient with different weapon types. So that's really cool. I kind of like that. I mean, it's a little bit more work for the GM, and when you're building characters and managing them as you go. And that means you got a little bit more moving pieces in there. So the characters in some regards are not as static as they were before. So like I was saying, you can switch out some of these features, and then you could switch your masteries and stuff when you level up or long rest. So to make sure you read through this, you'll kind of get an idea of some of the changes. So now we're going to go to background. So this is where you're actually going to get your skills. So you don't get it from your species anymore. You actually get it from your skills. And I think this is kind of makes sense because you're already born with a lot of your features. And as you develop into an adult or whatever, you begin to change and you kind of grow into those changes with what you're doing. So if you're a weightlifter or an athlete or somebody who sits around on the computer like me, those sort of things evolve your body type. And I think that does make kind of make sense anyways, insofar as, changing that. At first, I was a little bit apprehensive about that. I thought, why are you changing that? But now I kind of can see it a little bit. So anyways, it's not a bad change. I just think that it's going to take a while to get used to it. But anyhow, I'm going to pick soldier because that's what the type of build I'm doing. But you could pick anything you want, but I'm just going to do the soldier. Or if you were going to be an acolyte, maybe you're like almost like a monk or something like that. But I'm going to go ahead and pick soldier. And with the soldier, this is where we select the ability scores in this case. So I click on that. Now you pick the option. So you want +1 to 3 different skills or abilities, or do you want 2 and 1? I go with the 2 and 1. This is more of the traditional method. The other way was introduced in the Tasha's. So for the +2, I'm going to put that in strength because generally speaking, dwarves normally have a pretty high con. So I'm going to do a dex on the second. I would have normally picked con, but I was thinking that perhaps I want to benefit a little bit of constitution or a little bit of dex. It's that way I'm not too slow when I need to make dex saves, that sort of thing. Here's the skills tab, so you automatically get athletics and intimidation. So what will happen is when I go through here, I'll have to go back and change that because I picked those already for my class. So if I go back to class, I will change those. So I will see if it's going to flag me first, because that was what I liked about the character wizard, because it actually would flag you if you already get those. So here's the proficiencies. We'll pick a tool proficiency. We'll say he used to play dice with his war buddies. So he has that proficiency. He can play games. And for species, we're going to go with dwarf. And here you just get a bunch of species-related features. So you get the dwarven toughness, which is kind of across the board now. It's not necessarily just for a hill dwarf. Stone cunning, you get tremor sense. And you also you get to kind of do stuff that's natural or work. You can like make some educated guesses on it, and then as a bonus action, a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So this has a use case thing where I don't remember the other one. You could use it whatever you want. So I guess they try to balance it a little bit there. So we go to abilities. So I'm going to pick the point buy system, but you can roll, you can do point buy or a standard array. So I'll do the point buy, and here's the little counter up here, and use the little arrows on this base line down here because you start off at all 8s. This also incorporates the changes that I got from the background. So right now the strength is 10, so it won't cost me quite as much. So I want at least a 15. And then for dex, I was looking to be about 11, which will give me a 12 there. And then con was already kind of a thing for dwarves, but it isn't so much anymore. But I'm going to go ahead and jack that up to 13. And then for intelligence, I'll just go up to 10. Wisdom, I think dwarves are generally, not always, but generally wiser. And then I actually gave myself a little bit of charisma. Now I'm going to just fine tune this. So I definitely want to go up to a higher strength, and then I'll definitely raise my con up 1, and that should do it. So 17, 12, 14, 10, 11, 11. And actually, I'll just drop this charisma down. I don't know if I'll really need that, but that is part of my intimidation. So maybe I'll leave that. Maybe I'll drop the wisdom down to there and then go put this on dex. Okay, because I want my dex save to be a little bit better than normal, because usually dwarves are pretty slow. And that's another thing, is their movement rate went up to 30 instead of 25, so they changed that totally. So now you're not going to be the guy that's kind of lagging behind. That was annoying. I think I remember playing with individuals who had dwarves, and they're always the last one through the door, and that kind of sucked. And now there's the equipment list, which is a little bit different. So you got you got a background kit, and then you have a class kit. So you get stuff from your background and stuff from your class, and both of them have options to take gear or money. So for choice 1, I don't really need the background kit so much. I'm just going to take 50 gold. And then for the choice of the class kit, there's an A, B, and C option. So here's chainmail. You get a great sword, a flail, 8 javelins, and a dungeoneer's pack. Or you get studded leather, armor, a scimitar, short sword, long bow with quiver, dungeoneer's pack, and 11 gold. So, or you can just go for the money. So in this case, I think I will go. I'm thinking I want to go with a lighter kind of build, which isn't very common for me because I normally would want these, but I'm thinking about, let's see, I have an armor class bonus or something like that. So maybe I will go with studded leather. Normally I would go with this stuff here, but I want the scimitar and the bow and, you know, the short blade and that sort of thing. So I'll go ahead and click that. And I think that's a little bit more of a versatile thing. I don't like javelins for some reason. I'd rather have a bow, so I'll start with that. And then you go to the commitment screen, and I do notice that it did not flag me for the skills. So I'm going to have to go back and change those. So I'm not sure if that was intended or how that's going to work in the future, but for my class skills, I picked those two. And those two already come with, I think it was the background. Yeah, because I picked soldier. So I'm going to go back to my class and pick probably survival. And then I don't need intimidation anymore. So probably I'll just go with perception, maybe. Yeah, perception. There we go. And then that way, well, now when I go to the commit screen, I can see all these here. So one word of caution, check those before you commit. You should have at least 4 or more. So when you start off at first level, if you don't have 4, you're probably doubled up somewhere. We haven't chose our languages yet, and there might be some other little fine tuning that you can do after you build the character. So this is fighter 1, no special move, speed is 30, soldier background, dwarf. Their dark vision's been expanded to 120 feet instead of 60 or whatever it was before. And all these boxes up here are checked, so that's great. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and commit to the save, but we got to give it a title. So his name is going to be Braylum Rockfist. It's a common name I use in a lot of my characters, Rockfist, but it's kind of fitting. So Braylum Rockfist, and then come back here. You can take a look at what he has proficiencies with. His feat. So he's got defense, savage attacker. Well, he's got savage attacker twice. Wonder what the deal is with that. So I may want to change that. So go to background and see you're given savage attacker from your background. Let me look at species. Trying to figure out where he's getting it twice. Let's see, select a feat, defense. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's supposed to work out. If you're supposed to get it twice, maybe it adds a bonus, but I need to read up on that. Because these are the little things that I'm not quite familiar with. And what's kind of annoying that I can't click on that to read the feat. Let me see if I can find it somewhere else. So I'm going to see what it says for that. So savage, attacker. Okay, origin feats. Is that right? Or is it just feats? Okay, so savage attacker is for like a martial I believe. Yeah, it's an origin feat. So it's in between your background and your species. Huh, interesting. So let's look at feats. Oh, it says some of these feats can be taken more than once. So there's skilled is one, magic initiate is another, elemental adept, and ability score improvement. So those are the only ones that can be repeated. So I don't know why I would have that twice. So this is where you're going to get hung up on this stuff. So I'll probably manually change that. I don't think I have to stick with it. But I think that's kind of odd that, okay, so I get it as a soldier. Okay, I get savage attacker. It says see chapter 5. Okay, so get rid of the search. And this is why you want to look through this preview window before you commit, because there's some things going on that's changed. So if we go to chapter 5, I want to see what it says about that. So feats, here we go. So origin feats, let's go to savage attacker. All right, so you've trained to deal particularly damaging strikes once per turn. You hit a target with a weapon, you can roll the weapon's damage dice twice and use either roll against the target. So why would I need that twice? Unless I can do it twice. I mean, I don't think that's intended. So I have it twice here. I don't know if that's 3 times now. Maybe that's just a display error. We'll see what it looks like once I commit it. So if it's on there twice when it's committed, like here's defense again. So that could just be a display thing where it kind of shows what you were looking at last. But nonetheless, defense, savage attacker is what I have for my feats. All right, so we're not going to worry about that too much. So hit commit, make sure you got the name up there, hit save, and Bob's your uncle. So now here's the character. And for this particular event here, the show, I went ahead and made some token art. So that's another thing that you might face in the future is there is some included art, and it's going to be kind of across the board. So if you click on this portrait and then you actually click on this image here, it'll take you to the portrait section in Fantasy Grounds where you can still use some of the older ones. Here's the D&D 2024 portraits, and then you can go through those and see if any of those appeal to you. So I might use one of these depending on what I'm after or what kind of thing is, but I'm not really too keen on these. I mean, they're cool, they look okay, but I think everyone's going to have the same images. And I don't know if there's a 3D version of those or not, so I'm not going to worry about that. So I went ahead and built something based on a dwarven fighter. So if I go into my artwork here, if I go to assets, I've already built some assets for this particular show. So I'm going to go to this artwork is going to be my portrait artwork. And then for the flat token itself, I actually made a token out of that. So I'll put that there. And then for images for the 3D, 2D top down, or the 3D view, I got this guy here. So that's kind of what I did for myself, which may be what we're going to have to do until people start putting out packs. And I hope that in the future that you can buy a pack that has all 3 pieces or at least 2 of them. So it'd be nice to have the portrait and the token camera as a set. So if you are a content creator and you haven't already done so, and you're talented, you got skills, or you make them or generate them, this would be a good way to do that, or a good time to do it, because there's really not many people doing it. So if you want to make some character-based ones, like maybe make some fighters, and then make a few of each variety. You don't have to make 10 of each, but the more variety the better, but nonetheless. So there's some gameplay things, like inspiration has changed. I don't think it's inspiration anymore. I think it's called something else. I don't remember, but here something I wanted to point out that's changed. So this great sword, I'm going to change this to two-handed. And why did we? I thought I picked the other kit. I didn't think I chose this one, but oh well. So here's your second wind. Here's your savage attackers. I mean, most of this automation's already added. And I think I got 5 javelins to throw. And then here's your stone cunning, which has your usages set up. But they changed the toggle down here. So now you don't have 2 toggles, you just have 1. So you have your standard view, your preparation view, and your combat view. So combat view is probably what you'll use in most cases. Now, if you want to see the extra fields, like let's say you need to add a category, just click on the edit list and the other field will show up. So that's one thing I wanted you to see that's changed. So if you're going to add automation or extra stuff, all you have to do is click the edit. And then you have add power down here and add weapon. So those haven't changed. So getting out of the edit mode, now you can switch to preparation, or you can go to your combat mode, which is where you'll be in most cases. I'm going to go ahead and throw this guy on the combat tracker, see what it looks like. Okay, it looks pretty good there. And then I'll go to the offense. Yep. Go to effects. Nope. So now, if we want to do Dwarven Resilience, we'll have to activate that before we start playing. So that's just an effect that goes on the dwarf pretty much the whole time. Second wind, you use it when you need. Stone cunning, you use it when you need. Weapon mastery, I got to see what this is. So if you want to see the syntax, you'll have to go in here, edit mode, right click, and let's see, we can add an action to it if we have to, but I don't see it giving us access to it. But let's see what this says. Use power, weapon mastery. Okay. And maybe it's automatic. I think some of these are. So your training with weapons allows you to use the mastery properties of 3 kinds of simple or martial weapons of your choice whenever you do a long rest. Okay, so this allows you to switch between them. When you reach certain fighter levels, you gain the ability to use the mastery properties of more kinds of weapons. Huh. And this says legacy. I wonder why. Weapon mastery, maybe because it's a legacy deal. So, interesting. And then one thing I noticed is that you'll have a lot more artwork, and some records in Fantasy Grounds will have this toggle. In this case, there's no toggle there because I have the 2024 version only. So if I go to NPCs, and let's bring up the goblin here, which is the player's handbook actually comes with a couple creatures. So I'm going to filter this to the player's handbook. And then when you come through here, you'll notice that this little L will show a legacy record. And then if you open up, let's say, let's go with the fiendish spirit devil. This is more complex. So these have changed a little bit, and you have a pictures tab, which is kind of new if you haven't noticed. And this says the version here. So I don't have the toggle because I elected in the beginning to only use 2024 rules. So that's probably why. But the legacy records are notated in the list here. So anything that's a legacy or old school kind of thing, like the Beast of the Sky. Yeah, so this is, if you can see, the record is a little bit different. So it's not set up the same. So here's a basic, legacy, and then a non-legacy is going to look a little different. So you can see how these are in place here. So this is the difference in the stat blocks. So there's 2024, there's legacy, and you can see they've kind of pared it down. And then you have a notes tab, which is, see, the old legacy version doesn't have that. And this one has the summary and all that. So this, you could tell this is old. All right, so that's basically some of the changes. And I wanted to look at a goblin. So let's take a look. Oops. I can't believe there's no goblin in here. What? Okay. Let's do it again. Huh. Thought I saw a goblin, but oh well. No big deal. Maybe I'll use something else here. So let's go with a like a wolf or something. Dire wolf. Here we go. Okay, so this is a newer dire wolf. All right. So what we can do with that, or maybe I don't want a dire wolf. That's pretty tough. Let's go with a regular wolf. Do they have that? Yeah, zombie. There we go. This is the newer zombie or the newer format. And then what I'm going to do is take a, let's call it, this is going to be an encounter. I'm just going to make a quick encounter here. So we'll call this zombie test. And then we're going to take this zombie, drag and drop it. And then I'm going to change it to 2 instead of 1. Then refresh the CR and all that stuff. And then I'll change this to, you can unidentify it here if you want. And then you can change the faction. So I'll just go with a hostile and then add to tracker. So now we have, you know, a PC and a couple zombies. So now what I'm going to do is take and I'm going to do a quick map. So I'm going to open up this encounter again. Bring up the encounter. And I think I want to take these guys off for right now, because if you don't have anything prepared, this is the way to do it. So if it's just a blank and they're not placed on any maps or something, you can go to quick map and then you can decide like what type of image you want to use. So if I click on assets and make sure you're in images, I'm going to search for quick maps. I know that there were some released not that long ago. Quick, no. Let's say map. Huh, interesting. So let me go back. Oh, here we go. That's why I was in the campaign. So let's go to quick. Okay, so FG quick maps. So these are just quick maps that you can throw down. So here's a dungeon. We'll just do this one. So we'll pick this one, use this record here. And then this, you can use it as a fill if you want, but I'm not going to do that. And now if the enemies are going to start up top and the player's going to start at the bottom of the map. And then since we have 2 enemies, I'm going to actually place them like to the left and right. And then when I hit submit, this should put them on the combat tracker and the map, which it did. So that's pretty nice. So that's a little bit quicker if you're going to be doing like some homebrew, kind of on the fly stuff, because the zombies are here. They're just kind of hard to see because they're actually blended in with the background. But once they become visible, there we go. That's a pretty good size quick map. I don't think that's small at all. That's a pretty good size. But anyway, so you got these guys on here, and here's this guy. And let's put the grid on. Yep, there's the grid. And then I usually change the color. I don't like that faded gray color because it's hard to see it. And this have you a little bit more control. And then I'm going to go back to that mode. And let's see what these guys look like in the 3D free camera mode or token view. So yeah, pretty cool. So let me, yep, pretty cool. So when it's expanded out like this, you can't use I don't think you can use yeah, you can. You just got to switch it. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Not bad at all. And this is the guy I made. So he kind of goes with the art style that's already here. Pretty neat. Now I'll do an attack roll just to see what it will do. So I'll roll. Let's see. Let's go to menu, go to initiative, and roll all initiatives. So there we go. So the zombie 1 goes first. So I'm going to have a move in close. So let's see. I'll hold the Alt key, move him closer. And then he's going to basically do a slam attack on the Dwarven fighter. And he's able to successfully like swat him. And that's heavy damage right there. So ouch. Okay, so let's go to Braylum. So Braylum has second wind. And he can, I think it's a bonus action, so he's allowed to a limited well of physical stamina as a bonus action. Okay, so I'm going to take my bonus action, so I'll check one of these off and just click on the heal button here, and nice pretty heal dice. And that went ahead and healed me, but now I'm going to make my attack with this flail. Actually, great sword. Do I have a shield on or not? So if I go to my inventory, chainmail, I don't see a shield, so I can use a two-handed attack. So I'm going to take the great sword and attack that individual. So I'll just drag and drop this onto the zombie, or you can do it in the combat tracker. Either way. Oh wow, 1. So he drops his weapon. He's just like, bing. He like just totally biffed it. Well, I guess the rest of his turn for movement, he's going to try to pick up his weapon. I guess that's all he can do. It depends on where it dropped. Probably in this vicinity, I would say. So he probably struck and it probably went over here. So I'll have him move over there, and he's still in, in the combat. He's not, he's not leaving the zone. So he picks up his weapon. That's his turn. And then this individual is going to move. And let's see if he makes it over there in time. Yep. So he can move over there. And now it's his turn. So here's the attack. And that's a miss. Thank God. So he comes up lumbering over and he tries to thump him, which is cool. He probably ducked underneath it. He's trying to grab his weapon, the one he dropped. So now we're going to go to the next turn. And again, this individual is going to move over here and then try to flank him. I don't think they're that smart, but nonetheless, if you use flanking, it's up to you. But we'll just give them advantage, and then we'll do the slam attack. It'll probably hit him. Oh yeah, that's a 20 critical hit. Probably go down in this turn, so we'll see. So Fantasy Grounds knows that it's a critical hit, this little tag here. So when I do this, it'll automatically roll the additional dice. This time I'll drop the damage on the combat tracker instead of on the token, on Braylum. Huh? So it dropped this and it got a critical hit, but when I rolled that, it didn't automatically. What? So I don't know if that was intended or not, but what I'm going to do is, if you need to force a critical hit, what I can do here is take this wound, right click on it, go to plus or minus to negate the value, and then drag this back to him, and that will heal the damage that I did. For some reason, the critical flag didn't go off, so you can go into your options up here and go to modifiers. And then there's also a shortcut key, I forget which it is, but you can go to critical, click on that, and then roll the damage, because it should have been critical, unless the rules have changed or something. So now I'm going to roll it, and that rolls the extra dice. Wow, that sucked. He only did 3 points of damage on him. All right, so yeah, some little things like that I'm going to go through, and I'll go on the forums, and like I'm noticing some stuff that's not the same. So, and that's the only way you're going to know is by using it, because there's no way to test for all this. There's so many iterations and variations. There's no way to capture all this. All right, so now I'm going to go to Braylum, And again, he's going to use his greatsword. Hopefully he connects this time and doesn't drop his weapon. So drag and drop on this guy here. And this time he manages to deliver a vicious blow. And we'll see what it does. Oh yeah, so he's now gone. So he's unconscious and prone. And if you want to remove him to clean up your combat tracker, you can. So if you want to delete these, it should leave behind a blood splatter, which will indicate where he went down. So I'm going to delete this to clean up the combat tracker. Yeah, so that's where he went down. So you can change these too if you don't like this type. But he went down there. So if you were going to go back and loot the bodies or heal somebody or something, you'll have an idea of where they were. And if you don't like that, or if you want to clear it, you can clear that up here in the map tools. There's a clear button that you can use. Erase mode, target. It's one of these shortcuts. Clear death markers. There we go. All right, so now Braylum's went, and that's his turn. So now the zombie gets to go. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop this on Braylum to see if it hits or not. So he comes up, it winds up, and just swats him with his arm. Hits him with this like bone and flesh, rotten flesh, and it connects. And now we're going to take this and drop it on Braylum. Wow, they suck at rolling here. They got 2 points of damage on him. They've did 5 points of damage even with that critical hit the other one did. It didn't even phase him. All right, so he's still doing okay. I'm so surprised. I thought he was going to go down. So again, we're going to take and drag and drop the attack roll. And I don't know if this weapon mastery, what that does. I got to figure that out because it's probably just lets you be proficient with 3 weapons of your choice. Huh. Anyways, we'll have to look into that more. But I'll take and do another attack on that zombie. This time he connects very nicely and whammo on the zombie. Yep, so the zombie took 12 points of damage. So he's hurt and he's only got 6 left. So now let's go back to the zombie. The zombie is, kind of, they're not always static. I don't see them as being strategic as some of the other undead. But he basically gets another attack for his turn. And he misses. So Braylum's lucky. Let's put it that way. He's very lucky. And I'll just return the favor by, he's going to turn and kind of dodge out of the way. And now he's taking the attack action and trying to swing and take this thing out. Oh, he rolled a 1 again. Oh my God. So he's probably, yeah, so Sundance, it kind of depends on the build, because I ran into that too with the cleric. So just report it on the forums. Try a different build, and then try that. Yeah, I got that same thing. Yep. It's something that it's a certain combination. So if you report it, take a screenshot and also write down the steps, like what you selected in that, or export the character if it's done. But you can't save it. So but take a picture of where the and do the console error. But yeah, I had that same problem. It's just something minor. They probably did a typo or something. It's no big deal. It's just came out today, so I imagine they'll have that fixed soon enough. I just reported that too, so you want to go onto the forums and look. All right, so if you wanted to do a reroll, so here's the Savage Attacker damage reroll. So maybe if you did an attack and you connected, you can do particularly damaging strikes once per turn. When you hit a target with a weapon, you can re-roll the weapon's damage dice twice and use either roll against the target. So that is kind of up to, your GM and how you want to run that. But in this case, he missed, so that's not gonna fly now. Okay, zombie, let's see what you do here. So he reaches out and swats at him. He connects. I think this time might be fatal. We'll see. And then takes bludgeoning damage, and oh yeah, so he's down now. He's dying. So he's unconscious. He's prone. So let me pass the turn. So the zombie, I don't know what they would do at this point if they just sit there because the guy isn't moving anymore. They're not necessarily dead, so maybe the zombie would try to eat his brains or something. I don't know. But I'm going to go through the rounds just to see if he makes it through. And I did not see, let's see, hold on. I didn't see a death save, an automatic death save, so that's different. So let me roll manually. And that was a fail. So let me go into the options and see if that's still a thing or not. So let's see. Auto NPC initiative is on. Group. Let's see. They might have changed some of these out. So auto death roll. So that's on. I didn't see it do it. So I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, so that didn't work. I don't know why, but automatic hit points, combat. Yeah, so some of the stuff is definitely quirky. So I'm not sure what happened there. But I just did it manually. So it's not that big of a deal, but anyhow. So yeah, some little things here that I've noticed that don't work the same or that have not worked or they should be working, but they're not. Let me go through and pass the turn again and see if it tries to roll. Yeah, it didn't do it again. And then when I click on this death save, I would think that it would, and that one doesn't say pass or fail either. It just says death, but 10 is a save. Yeah, I don't know, man. Don't know about that part. Anyway, so I don't think he's gonna survive. So anyhow, that's what I got today. Appears to be a problem with the human build. Yeah, I think so. Seems that it's fixed and will be in the next update. Yep, I got it. All right, so anyhow, there's some things I'm gonna take this video and put this link up here to the Smiteworks team and ask them what's going on with this stuff. But anyhow, folks, take care. Don't fret. You can still play the older rules until this gets, sorted out. I don't think that, we're going to be able to start a campaign on day one with this kind of stuff going on, but I imagine by the end of this week, they'll have this sorted out. So anyhow, take care, folks, and you guys have